Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Our Home Ground, where the women's game feels personal and powerful, and we get to talk about all things women's soccer, mostly off the pitch stuff, but of course, it's all influenced by what's going on the pitch. So throw some of that into today. I'm so excited. I do think this is going to be my last episode, like regularly scheduled episode for the year. This upcoming week is the last week of footy before the winter break. So I think I'm just gonna call it. I'm traveling this weekend for the Christmas break, and so just not gonna have time and there won't be that much to talk about. Kind of a lie because there is Champions League this week, and then the quarterfinal of the WSL League Cup, the Subway Cup, is this weekend. So there would be theoretically things for me to talk about, but we'll just deal with that at a later date. So today, what I do want to talk about, we're going to do a little bit of a wrap up of the last WSL weekend of the year. And then I have a couple of like player feature situations that we're going to get into that I'm really excited about. Let's get started with the final WSL matches of the 2025 part of this 25-26 season. It seemed like we were back this weekend to a little bit more of the typical WSL weekend. Things that you would expect to happen were happening, namely Chelsea won. I think that's part of it. But on Saturday, there was actually a Thursday game as well. The Liverpool Villa game that had gotten postponed because of Matt Beard's death was played. So there was that on Thursday. And then on Saturday, Arsenal beat Everton 3-1 at Everton. Felt like Arsenal was back. Katie McCabe scored the first goal, which was crazy, as she has not been scoring goals lately for Arsenal. So that was fun and exciting. But overall, it was a pretty Arsenal heavy game, which is to be expected, just like looking at the table and sort of the history between these teams. On Sunday, we had all kinds of games. West Ham tied Liverpool 2-2. Liverpool did get a red card, so pretty early on too. So that was a little bit crazy. Leicester City beat London City Lionesses 1-0, which that I don't think was expected. That was kind of like the shock of the weekend. And Lonnie, the captain of London City Lionesses, had missed a penalty, so that was crazy. I always think a missed penalty is crazy, but I guess maybe it's not that crazy. Chelsea beat Brighton 3-0, looked more convincing, more like the Chelsea that we are used to. So maybe after that Everton loss, they just kind of got it out of their system and moved along. Crazy game. Man United tied Tottenham 3-3, which that's a lot of goals, just regardless of anything else that happened. But Tottenham was up 2-0 at half and then scored a goal pretty soon after they came back out after halftime. So they were up 3-0 until the 75th minute, I think, is when Ella Toone scored that. So Tooney scored a goal, which if go look at the highlights of that, it was a really interesting goal, but whatever, it happened. And then Fridolina Rolfo came on and scored two goals, one of which was in like the fourth minute of the 5 minutes of stoppage time to clinch that tie for them, which is tough for them in league standings, but we'll get into that in a little bit. And then Man City beat Aston Villa 6-1. I would not have predicted that scoreline. City is in fantastic form though, but I thought Villa's been in pretty good form too. So I don't know. I actually didn't watch the game, but there were four goals from Bunny Shaw. And if anybody uses the like FotMob app, I think a lot of us end up seeing it online or screenshots from it online. They gave her a 9.9 rating. I don't even know if it's possible to get a higher rating than that. So that was really fun and exciting. We'll get to talk about Bunny Shaw more in this episode, and I'm really, really excited about that because she is just a special, special player. But I do want to talk a little bit about just the table and where things sit as we go into Christmas break, because that does wrap up the first half of the WSL season. I don't know if it's exactly half, but I think they've played 11 games. So yeah, and there are 12 teams. So that is exactly half. Crazy how they do that. First half of the season is done. So just run through the table. Man City is sitting in first with 30 points and a plus 22 goal differential. That's crazy. They are 6 points clear of Chelsea, who is next, and 9 goals in a goal differential clear. So they are, as it sits going into Christmas, looks like running away with things, but anything could happen. So we'll see what happens as we get into the second half of the season. Chelsea is in second with 24 points and a plus 13 goal differential. Arsenal is in third with 22 points and a plus 13 goal differential. So that I think as an Arsenal fan, and I think anybody who's paying attention to the WSL feels a little bit surprising after the start that Arsenal had, that A, they would be in third going into Christmas, and B, that they would only be 2 points behind Chelsea. But Chelsea had like a rough run of form where they had a couple of ties and then the loss to Everton. And Arsenal is getting back in the swing of things. So that's really interesting to me. Man United is in fourth with 21 points and a plus 11 goal differential. Tottenham in fifth with 20 points and a even 0 goal differential. London City Lionesses sits in sixth with 15 points and a -7 goal differential. Brighton in seventh with 14 points and a +1 goal differential. Aston Villa is in eighth with 13 points and a -4 goal differential. Leicester City in ninth with 9 points and a -13 goal differential. That's tough. Everton is in 10th with 8 points and a -8 goal differential. West Ham in 11th with 5 points and a -15 goal differential. And then Liverpool is sitting in 12th with 3 points and -3 goal differential. They have yet to win a game this first half of the season. They've tied 3 times. So I don't get it. Liverpool looks like a good team. They tied with Chelsea. They had a really good game against Arsenal. Like they look like a good team. So I want them to be doing better than they are. So maybe they'll have a really good January signing or just like getting it together with the team that they have. So we'll see. So a little bit of a reminder about what's at stake here as far as like place in the league table. The top three teams qualify for Champions League. The team that wins the league goes straight into the league phase of the Champions League for the 26-27 season. And then the teams that place second and third in this season will go into the qualifying rounds for the 26-27 Champions League. So that is very exciting. The other end of the table, things that we need to think about. Bottom team is actually not automatically relegated this season. Normally, whoever's in 12th is relegated to the WSL 2, but not this year because the WSL is expanding to 14 teams next season for the 26-27 season. So, two teams from the WSL 2, the teams that place first and second, will be automatically promoted. So that gets us to 13 teams, but we need a 14th team. The team that places 12th in the WSL will play a playoff game with the team who places third in the WSL 2. They will play, I don't know exactly what that playoff looks like, if it's like just one game, if it's a two-legged situation. I'm not sure. When I know more about that and when that's coming up, we'll certainly talk about it. But that'll be like May. So, but that's just a little reminder of what the table looks like and sort of what's at stake for each of these teams and depending on where they go. But next, I want to do a quick feature on a player. I've already alluded to it. A player who is just absolutely crushing it this season and has been for multiple seasons and is just making it look so fun, so easy. And it's not easy. It's because she is so good at what she does. And that player is Bunny Shaw. So, Bunny Shaw is a Jamaican international who plays for Man City. She scored 4 goals for City over the weekend, but she does go by Bunny. Her brother gave her that nickname when she was young because of how much she liked carrots, and it just stuck. And that is like literally the only name that she goes by now. Fun fact about her, she is the youngest of 13 siblings. I cannot even imagine the chaos of growing up in that house. But she started like being taught how to play soccer. She played when she was young, just like with her brothers, but started taking it a little bit more seriously when she was like 10 and her brother was teaching her how. She got her first call up to the Jamaican youth programs when she was 13 and to their youth 15. So she is widely considered one of the best strikers in the world. She's so good. She's so fun to watch. She's also the captain of the Jamaican women's national team, which is cool and exciting. We'll wrap up with a little bit about that. I didn't realize this, but she went to college in the US and played in the US college system. So this is a bit nuanced and we're not really going to get into it, but she played her first 2 years at a junior college in Florida and then was recruited by University of Tennessee and transferred there to play her last 2 seasons. And it wasn't until she got to University of Tennessee that she was converted from a midfielder to a striker. What a genius choice that was because she is so like ruthless in front of goal and just so fun to watch. But when she graduated college, she decided not to enter the NWSL draft, which is sort of one pathway that you can take out of the US college system. She decided not to do that. Instead, she wanted to like see what she could do playing in Europe, going overseas. And so she started her professional career with Bordeaux, a team in the Women's French League. That first year, she had 10 goals and 5 assists. Her second season, she was very, very successful. She was Division 1 Feminine Player of the Month twice in October of 2020, in January of 2021. She ended her second season in France with 22 goals and 7 assists in 20 matches. That's 29 goal contributions in 20 matches. Like that's crazy. And this resulted in her being the top goal scorer and making the team of the year for the French league. So that was just impressive because when you think of players who would win like the Golden Boot or their version of it in the French league, you're thinking about players from like Lyon, PSG, maybe Paris FC, but like you're not thinking of somebody who plays for Bordeaux. So that's just how good she is. In June of 2021, she signed with Man City on a 3-year deal. Her first season, she actually was the second choice striker for City because Ellen White was playing for City at the time. Ellen White was the starting 9 for England at the time. This was the season before the 2022 Euros. So Bunny was the sort of like second choice striker, which to say that now just feels so crazy. But we all start somewhere, right? I think Bunny started in a completely different place than many people, but that's okay. But even as the second choice striker, she was the joint top goal scorer for the League Cup in the 21-2022 season. And she and Man City went on to win the League Cup, beating Chelsea in the final that season. She finished the season with 16 goals and was the team's second highest goal scorer as the backup striker behind Ellen White. And that's just so impressive. But following that summer, Ellen White retired after the 2022 Olympics. Nope, not Olympics, the 2022 Euros. And so Bunny became the first choice striker for City and just had an incredible breakout year for them. She set a new club record for number of goals scored in a season. In all competitions, she scored 31 goals in 30 games. So, again, still this trend of more goals than appearances, which I think is just wild. In 2022, she was named, it was probably like early in 2023, but anyways, she was named CONCACAF Female Player of the Year for 2022, which is just so impressive because usually a US women's national team player wins that because the US women's national team is just traditionally so good and the individual players are so good, but like Bunny is that girl and I just like don't know how else to say it. So good for her. That was really cool. Following that 2022-23 season, she was also in the 2023 PFA WSL Team of the Year and she finished in the top 30 in the Ballon d'Or rankings, which is really, really impressive. And then, in typical Bunny fashion, she continued this incredible form into the 23-24 season. She became Man City Women's all-time leading goal scorer after scoring her 68th goal in her 81st appearance for the club. Crazy that after only playing 81 games for the club, she already became their all-time leading goal scorer. I think she's so impressive. Like I am just obsessed with how good she is at this sport. Throughout that season, she ended up scoring 21 goals in 18 WSL appearances and won the season's Golden Boot. She was also Super League Player of the Season and PFA Women's Players Player of the Year, which, as many of the players will tell you, being recognized by your peers, the people you're playing against week in and week out, is probably the highest honor that you can have. So again, very, very impressive for her. In the 24-25 season, Bunny scored her sixth hat trick in the WSL, becoming the outright record holder for the most hat tricks scored in the league. And she had tied Viviana Miedema in the season before. She's just so impressive. I am just, every time I read another one of these stats, I'm just like, are we getting how good she is at this? Because she is just that good and she is that girl. In Even though in the 2024-2025 season, she only played 14 WSL games because she had a lot of injuries going on. She still finished that season with winning the Golden Boot. She did share the award with Alessia Russo, but they both had 12 goals, and Bunny only played in 14 WSL games, and Alessia Russo played in many, many more than that. So that is just like how impressive Bunny is. And then looking at this season, she's already made history in this 2025-2026 season by being the first City women's player to reach over 100 goals. And she did this in the most fabulous fashion over the weekend. She scored her 100th, 101st, 102nd, and 103rd goals over the weekend against Aston Villa. And that is just so impressive. And I really liked the way that City celebrated this for her after the game. They played this video and they then posted it online, of course. And I think it's like a 6-minute video. So it's like pretty long of just people congratulating her, saying nice things about her. And I just love that because so often we hear these players talk about how they don't really pause to like take it all in while they're still playing. They wait until they're like retired to really understand the magnitude of what they're doing. But I really liked that City was intentional about celebrating this with her. They made the video. I'm sure they didn't know exactly when they were going to use it, but like it's Bunny Shaw. She scores goals like she's out there on the playground. Like she just looks like she's having so much fun. And I really think that's the theme for City this season is all of City just looks like they're having so much fun. Viv is back in fantastic form. And having Viv at the 10 and Bunny at the 9 is just unbelievable. And then you have Lauren Hemp on the like City is so good. And I really, really want them to win the league. I mean, obviously, I would want Arsenal to win the league, but I think that's kind of done and dusted. So I hope that City can maintain this form, win the league, qualify for Champions League, make it not be Chelsea who wins the league again. Just all of that. Like, I just think it's so impressive what they're doing. And so I'm really, really excited about it. And as if talking about just like her club performances wasn't exciting enough, there are a couple of two things that I want to highlight in her international career because she does play for Jamaica, which is a small nation, traditionally not a powerhouse in women's soccer. But when you have players like Bunny Shaw, and there are a few other Jamaican girls who are playing either in the NWSL or the WSL, and so it's exciting. But she was part of the team in 2019 when they became the first Caribbean nation to ever qualify for a Women's World Cup, which is amazing. And then she helped create even more history in 2023 when she captained her team to the knockout stages, the round of 16 in the 2023 World Cup, making it the first time that either the men's or the women's Jamaican team had progressed to the knockout stages of a World Cup. So just like big history in just the game of football for that country. And this is even more impressive if you realize that they were in a group with France and Brazil, and only two teams qualify out of the group. And so they progressed over Brazil, which was such a big deal. Brazil is such a talented team. I mean, the next year, Brazil went to get a silver medal in the Olympics, and they didn't even get out of their group in the 2023 World Cup. So, like, the fact that they got out of the group over Brazil was just so impressive and so exciting for them. And their celebrations at the time, like, it was so cool, and it's so good for the sport to see teams like this doing well, and to have Bunny Shaw as your captain, and just she's so good and she's so fun. And so, yeah, I'm in awe of her, and I think that she deserved to have a little time on the pod to just talk about because I do spend a lot of time talking about people from the United States or from England. And there are so many other really, really talented players that we need to be talking about. And so I'm going to try to start doing more of that. On that note, we're gonna actually move back and talk about the U.S. Women's National Team. This is what I wanted to talk about in the last episode that I just didn't have time to because it's gonna take a minute. But I want to talk about the nominees for the U.S. Women's National Team Female Player of the Year. I also always, at this point in sort of society, struggle with the fact that we're calling it the Female Player of the Year, but we'll just I digress. I won't hop on that soapbox right now. I've made it clear about where I stand on the trans women in sports thing. And I think they've called it the female player of the year for so long that I don't think it's like this intentional choice, but it just like feels a little not, it doesn't sit well with me. Anyways, like I said, I digress. But the five nominees for the U.S. Women's National Team Player of the Year are midfielder Sam Coffey, defender Emily Fox, forward Alyssa Thompson, midfielder Rose Lavelle, and forward Catarina Macario. So we're going to just talk briefly through each of these players and the year that they have had. And we're going to start with midfielder Sam Coffey. So I feel like maybe if I keep talking about Sam Coffey, I will manifest her to Arsenal in January. Feels probably unlikely as she just signed a new like long-term deal with I think she signed a 4-year contract with Portland. But a girl can dream, okay? And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to have big dreams, and that is getting Sam Coffey to Arsenal. Anyways, that's not what this is about. So, Sam Coffey is the captain for her club, Portland Thorns. She was the appearance leader for the U.S. Women's National Team in 2025 with 14 appearances. She was the joint starts leader for the Portland Thorns with 27 in the 2025 season, which is a lot. And then she also played the most minutes of anybody for the U.S. Women's National Team on the international stage, and then for Portland on the NWSL stage. So, girl played a lot of minutes. She played the most minutes on both of her respective teams. With the U.S. Women's National Team, she had 4 goals and an assist. That is by far the most goals she's ever had in a year. I love when Sam Coffey scores a goal, and I love her like surprised reaction of just like she just like I don't know, doesn't expect herself to score, but she seems to be working so well under Emma Hayes's system, and so it's very exciting. And I really, really am a big Sam Coffey fan. And then with Portland, she had 2 goals and 4 assists. So those are kind of the stats of 2025 for Sam Coffey. We will move on to defender Emily Fox, which I will never be shy about the fact that I love Emily Fox. I'm a huge fan of Foxy. She currently plays at Arsenal in England. Obviously, I talk about her all the time. She was nominated for CONCACAF Player of the Year and also finished 25th in the Ballon d'Or nomination. She made the 24-25 WSL PA Team of the Year after starting in all 22 of Arsenal's WSL games this past season in the 24-25 season. She won the Champions League with Arsenal, defeating Barcelona in May in Lisbon. In case anybody forgot, I know it's been a few weeks since I've mentioned the fact that Arsenal are European champions, but don't ever forget that. And she has been one of the most consistent presences with the U.S. Women's National Team this past year. And honestly, for the past couple of years, but this is only about this past year, she holds down that right back position and has really been the only person who's gotten a lot of like meaningful minutes there throughout the year, even when all of so many other positions on the team seem to be in flux. Really feels like the only time she hasn't been starting is because she's being rested. It's not because we're really trying out anybody else in that spot. And it's so rare to have somebody have a spot kind of like locked down on the U.S. Women's National Team. Not that there aren't people biting at her heels. There always are and always will be, but she's that girl. Like, I don't know what else to say. She has made at least one start in each of the camps this year and played in 8 matches, starting in 6 of them. As I said, she played so many minutes for Arsenal, and so I think Emma Hayes has been really intentional about player loading and making sure that we're not putting as if I have any say in it, that she is not putting these women in situations in which they will be more at risk for injury or any of that kind of stuff. That is defender Emily Fox. Our next candidate is forward Alyssa Thompson. She played in all but 2 of the matches for the U.S. Women's National Team this year. She scored 2 goals and had 1 assist for the U.S. Women's National Team this year. She transferred famously, we talked about this, transferred from Angel City to Chelsea in September. Before leaving Angel City, she had 6 goals and 2 assists. And then as of December 1st, because this is when I took these, well, that's when the U.S. Women's National Team did these player profiles, and that's where I pulled most of this information from. As of December 1st, when she got nominated, she had 11 appearances for Chelsea with 8 starts, 3 goals, and 1 assist. She's had multiple goals since then. She had that banger of a goal against Arsenal. Boo. She's doing great. She is really thriving in the Chelsea system. It seems like there was the first Sam Kerr, Alyssa Thompson link up goal this weekend. So that was really exciting. I think they're going to be dangerous on the field together. Yeah. So that's Alyssa Thompson. Midfielder Rose Lavelle is the next person we're going to talk about. She actually missed the first half of the year because of an ankle injury. She was out until like June, I believe. She had to get surgery. She had surgery, I don't know, roughly this time last year at the end of the NWSL season, maybe into January. She had surgery. She ended up with 3 goals and 3 assists across the year. She did win the NWSL championship with Gotham this year. She scored the NWSL championship winning goal and was named MVP of the championship. She is unbelievable. She played 16 games with Gotham, scoring 6 goals and providing 2 assists. And then, as far as U.S. Women's National Team goes, she is the newest addition to the 50 plus club with more than 50 combined goals and assists in her international career. And she achieved that milestone this year, a little bit earlier on in the year. So, Rose Lavelle is fantastic. The fact that she is on this list after only playing half of the year with U.S. Women's National Team and with Gotham, I think just speaks to how talented she is. But I will say, in my opinion, missing half of the year does really impact the way that I think about her on this list. Not to say that she's not incredibly talented, but this is about the year as a whole, in my opinion. So, the last person who is nominated is forward Catarina Macario. She is the leading goal scorer for the U.S. Women's National Team in 2025 with 7 goals and 2 assists. She started in 9 games and scored back-to-back braces in the October window. Currently, she plays for Chelsea. She scored 2 goals in their Champions League match against St. Polten. She has 2 assists across the 8 league matches. Again, this is as of December 1st. Kat has been in great form for the U.S. Women's National Team this year. It's great to see her back, returning after her ACL injury that took her a very, very long time to recover from, like 2 years almost, if not the full 2 years. So, very exciting to see her thriving so well with the U.S. Women's National Team. She seems somehow to not be thriving as strongly with Chelsea at the moment. So I don't know if the system just doesn't like favor her or what, or if she's just not showing up in stats the right way, but or the right way. But like, maybe she's not the one scoring, but she's involved in build-up play and all these things. I don't watch Chelsea that closely, so I'm not really sure. But she made the list. She's very, very talented. I think you all know where my vote lies, and I did vote. And my vote's with Emily Fox. I think that her consistency, yes, this past year with Arsenal, the way that she performed in so many of those Champions Leagues matches against Real Madrid, against Lyon, against Barcelona were just absolutely incredible. And just week in, week out with Arsenal. And then with the US Women's National Team, that consistency and the presence that she has for the team, I think is so important. I think her presence during the 2023 World Cup was one of the few stable points that existed then, too. Again, this isn't about that year. This is about a different year, but I also just like ride for the defenders because I think it's easy to see the stats of forwards and goal scorers and stuff like that, but there's so much more to a team than just that. And I just think Emily Fox is incredible, underrated. I would really, really argue that she is one of, if not the best right back in the world right now. There are a few people who would be in conversation with that. I would put in Lucy Bronze and Ellie Carpenter and Ona Battier as well. But Emily Fox is in that conversation, and I think she rises towards the top for me. Anyway, those are my thoughts on it. It'll be interesting to see. I don't actually know when they announce it, but we'll see what happens. The fact that she's on the list and getting recognized, I think, is great. I don't think she would probably want that. She seems like she gets really awkward when they celebrate her. Like when they celebrated her when she came to camp after winning the Champions League, she seemed to get very, very awkward about it, but you got to do it. That is something I didn't mention in the last podcast when I was talking about the NWSL Championship and the US Women's National Team. Emma Hayes was super intentional, and they shared this, her telling the team this, that they needed to celebrate the Gotham girls when they arrived to camp, because they arrived like later in the day on the Monday because they had their, what's it called, ticker tape parade, the open top situation. They got keys to New York City, all the things. Emma Hayes was like, we need to celebrate them, acknowledging that there are players in camp who would be disappointed. She's like, I get some of you played in the game and lost. You're allowed to be disappointed, and this is a really big achievement for them, and we need to celebrate them. And so I thought that was really cool. She did the same thing for Emily Fox, and like obviously Arsenal beat Lyon in the semifinal. Lindsay Heaps is the captain of the U.S. Women's National Team, plays for Lyon, but still, Lindsay gave her the biggest hug and was so excited for her. And so I think that kind of stuff is important too. And I forgot to mention it last time. Yeah, that's the U.S. Women's National Team chat for today about the player of the year. So we'll see what happens. But I think that's all I've got for today. There is the last game of Champions League for every team is on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So the day that this podcast comes out, all the games are at the same time. I think it'll be really fun and exciting. We'll see what happens. 10 of the 12 teams have like mathematically confirmed that they will move on to at least the like knockout. Top four teams go automatically to the like knockout phase. And then teams 5 through 12 go into like a playoff to get into the knockout phase. So 10 of the 12 teams have confirmed that they're at least moving on to the next phase, but it has not necessarily been confirmed who those top four teams are going to be, who will just move straight ahead. So we'll see. I think it'll be really exciting. Let me know what you guys think. I hope everybody it's also today is the second day of Hanukkah. I hope everybody has a happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and every other holiday that exists between now and whenever I'm back. I hope everybody enjoys all of them. Or if you don't celebrate holidays at all, I just hope you have a good winter season, I guess. Whatever's right for you. So I will be back in the new year. Let me know what you guys think. What should I be talking about in the new year? My plan is to do another roundup of transfers at the end of January, so maybe the first week of February, but I might do like a little mid-January check-in about that too for any, huge things that are happening. So I'm so excited about what this past year has been doing this podcast, past couple of months. I didn't start it until like September, but yeah, let me know what you guys think, any directions I should be going, and I will see you next year. That's so annoying, but like I am who I am. Bye, guys.